guys, and welcome to my channel. Today we're gonna talk about Modern Warfare Beta again. This time it's gonna be my final feedback before launch. Let's go! This is my feedback and feel free to disagree in a constructive way, of course, and I would love to hear what you guys think down below. So I've decided to split this video up into two different sections, you can say. The first one is the general game mode, like multiplayer. I'm not going to talk about gunfight, but I will be talking about ground war. So I want to be upfront and honest with you guys. I have not played a lot of multiplayer, just because I got so frustrated with the spawns and the inconsistency in connections, as well as the campers and head glitchers and just the overall light dynamic, which they have addressed. They will fix before launch, which is amazing. Maybe it will play better then. It's mainly the frustration with the spawns. And I feel like I've talked about the spawns so much in my feedback videos, but I have to mention it again. The spawns feel very random. Someone in my stream said that it's a conspiracy theory that they made spawns more random because it takes skill to know spawns, and since they want to decrease the skill gap in this game, they made it more random so good players couldn't actually predict spawns. And I thought that was actually a great conspiracy theory. Now, I don't think it's true, but I think it was kind of funny to mention. But the spawns are more random in this game. For example, in TDM, they seem completely random because sometimes, like in other COD games, we're used to spawning on either or side of the map. But in this game, we spawn all over the place. Sometimes we spawn in the back of the map. Sometimes we spawn in the middle of the map. Sometimes we spawn middle side map. It's like all over the place. It's really hard to predict. In my opinion, I feel like it disrupts the flow completely. Then in Domination, and I know I've mentioned this before, but you have A flag and you have B flag, and somehow you end up spawning on the C flag, which is the enemy's flag. It's like the game is telling you that you cannot play Domination the way we want to, so you're gonna spawn on C now and cap the enemy's flag. And it caused a lot of weird situations where you went from actually dominating the match to all of a sudden being triple capped because the spawned the enemies on your flags. And regularly, in Domination, you will spawn on the enemy flag if the enemies is pushing too far into your spawn, but this was not the situation in this game. It's all over the place, man. I don't understand it. Another thing like with the spawns is the spawn delay. I've talked about it before. The flying animation is not really that good for flow, I think. And also, why do you have spawn delay in normal modes like TDM and Domination? It just, like I said, it disrupts the flow. As well as predicting the safe spawn from the point you die till you spawn in might not be the same thing, because like I said in another video, it's 2.3 seconds. 2.3 seconds, it can happen a lot in a COD game. Further on, we have the tactical and lethals. You can put the tactical and a lethal on your class without it having any downsides on whichever things you can choose on your class. Because it's not pick 10, it's pick everything you want, basically. And that's causing a lot of grenade and flashbangs, etc. spam throughout the whole match. So I tried this thing because I wanted to do a class where I had both an SMG as well as an LMG for ground war. For that I needed overkill. I decided to take off my EOD and switch it over to overkill. I couldn't do that, man. That did not work at all. I kept on being killed, especially by claymores. Claymores are placed everywhere and you die. Like if you see them and you don't have EOD, you die immediately. So I ended up having to put it on. So EOD perk has definitely become a crutch. I don't know what they should do to limit the grenade spam, because it's all the time. Every time someone spawns in, they get a new lethal and they get a new tactical, which is causing it to be thrown all the time. That said though, in ground war though, tacticals didn't seem to be thrown around as much as lethals. But that could be because a lot of people, like myself, probably put on the stim shot, because stim shot is a tactical that is very helpful, especially if you're close to the objectives, because that's when you get the most spam of everything. So it's nice to be able to heal up real quick. And then we have the VTOL, as well as the support helicopter and the chopper gunner. Those are so loud, you can not hear anything else going on when you're playing the game and those things are up in the air. But my biggest issue is with the VTOL. Oh my god, how many times I got killed off a streak due to the VTOL? through roofs. Just, I have to mention that. It was insane. I can't even count how many times, and I got so upset. One time I was on a 23 streak or something like that, and then I got killed by the VTOL through the roof, and my controller almost went to the ground because that was so frustrating. There was nothing I could do. I tried running away, it didn't help. I tried running downstairs, it didn't help. Luckily they've said that they're gonna fix the VTOL, so it won't shoot through roofs, which I'm very glad to hear because that thing needs to go. That was so annoying. And then another thing I want to mention, and I've talked about the minimap a lot. One thing that I would like to see, and I'm not a red dot chaser, just that's being said, and I know people who say that they're not actually are. But the red dots can actually encourage other people to move. Just look at Ground War versus normal multiplayer. In Ground War we had the red dots. In multiplayer you did not. And it seemed to me that a lot of people were moving a lot more in Ground War. Now I can't say that it's definitely 100% because of the dots, but it might contribute to it, because then people are more sure of where to go, because they can see where enemies are at. But one thing that I want to say about like the red dots in Ground War, it cost me to use silencer a lot more. Like in normal multiplayer I don't feel the need to use a silencer, but due to the red dots showing up on the minimap in Ground War, I felt it would be more of an advantage to use the silencer. Another thing that I would like to say about the minimap is that I would like it to be more zoomed out. In Ground War it was actually a lot more zoomed out than it is in multiplayer, and I think that was excellent. I could finally see more of what's going on around me, so I can better predict and know where to go. And then again I have to bring up the compass. Like I said in my last feedback video, I feel that the compass is just excessive information that just clutters up the HUD more than it needs to. It felt really nice to play Ground War where you had all the information in one place. Like I said in the last one, I saw this great concept. I'm gonna put it up on the screen again so you can see. And it would be really nice if they put the compass around the minimap like they show there, or just have on the red dots like they do in Ground War. So I've already brought in a bunch of stuff talking about Ground War, but I gotta say this. I had to quit playing multiplayer. I got so frustrated playing it, couldn't do it anymore, so I spent the whole weekend playing Ground War. One thing that I want to bring up that's been very controversial is the skill-based matchmaking. There's been a lot of content creators talking about it, and I want to share my feelings on it. And I want to underline that it's feelings and it's not facts, it's just in general how it felt for me. Like I said earlier, in multiplayer the matches felt a lot tougher. I felt like I played them against more skilled players, and I think that's fine. I think it's fine to have matches where you play against tougher enemies and sometimes easier enemies. I like the mix of it. I like the randomness of it, but it felt like every multiplayer match I played was a sweatfest. I did not enjoy it at all. But then Ground War came and it seemed like it was more random. And somehow, I'm not saying this is a fact, but somehow for me, the connection was also more stable in Ground War. You know, a lot of people claim that if there's strict skill-based matchmaking, it affects the connections. And for me, it kind of seemed a little bit true. A lot of times the connection was terrible in multiplayer. Like a lot of times. Most of the times I played it was terrible. And it sucked because I wanted to get the true experience, but I can't have a true experience when I have to shoot 4 to 5 bullets to kill someone, and then I get sniped by the SMG, like I've said before. And then when it came to Ground War, my connection was good. It took the right amount of bullets for me to kill the enemy, and it took the right amount for the enemy to kill me. So that's when I'm questioning if there's actually skill-based matchmaking. Like, not only for the connection, but also for the randomness in the skills on the enemy player. Then I move over to Ground War, which is what I had the most fun with playing this weekend. I've already talked a lot about different things in Ground War, but I have a dedicated list that I was going to bring up talking about it. But I already said a few of those things, so I say that we just continue. So one thing that I noticed is that there's a lot of frame drops in Ground War. And it's understandable, like it's the beta. There's more player in the maps than we've ever experienced in COD, in regular, not in Battle Royale. But there's a lot of frame drops in Ground War. And keep in mind, I play on a PlayStation Pro, so I can't imagine how it is when you play on a regular PS4 or PS4 Slim. I can't imagine how it's gonna be like if you play on those consoles and you play Ground War, because I had troubles, and like I said, I play on a PlayStation Pro. Next thing I want to bring up is the tanks. The tanks, I got so annoyed by the tanks. And you can say just adapt, because yeah, you can see them very easily on the minimap if there's a friendly or not friendly tank that's around you. But when you see them in real life, when you're playing, it's harder to see if it's an enemy or friendly tank. That said, I don't think the tank should be out of there because I think it's kind of like the core of ground war that you'll be able to use different kind of vehicles. But there's one thing that I think they should do something about, and I don't know if you experience it, but it happened to me so many times. And that was the enemies driving on top of the hill and then shooting directly into the B flag. One good way of fixing that would be to put up barricades or something like that so the tanks can't get on top of the hills. And I get that some people enjoy doing that, but I think it brings a bit too much power to the team that has a tank on top of the hill to be able to sit there and basically look over the whole map shooting their tank at people. So I think that would be a great thing to take away. And also, I was one of those people who kept on destroying tanks. It was almost impossible to kill the tanks that was on top of the hills unless I got a glide bomb or whatever they called in this game, I can't remember. Because once you can see the tank on top of the hill, there's either snipers or you get shot by the tank. So it's really hard to destroy the tanks on top of there. So I think it would be great if they could put up barriers so people couldn't get on top of there with their tanks. And then I want to bring up squad spawn. I think in general squad spawn is a lot of fun, but there's an issue with it because there was a few times where I spawned in on my teammate and I spawned right into enemy bullets. I think it's great that it's there, but they should adjust it a little bit so it would choose to spawn in close proximity to your teammate, but that's actually safe. And then I have to bring up another thing with the spawns in Ground War. If you follow me on Twitter, you've already seen this, but I gotta put the clip up there. I pushed myself into the room around C, because people are very concentrated around the C flag. So I pushed my way in there, and then enemies started spawning right in front of me. It's like literally touching me. I don't think that should be a thing, and the reason for that is that they had the C flag, so the enemies could then choose C as their spawn, and there's a set amount of spawn locations around the C flag, so that's where it's spawning in. But the system didn't take into considerations that I was right behind the spawn point, so enemies kept on spawning in front of me, so that needed to be adjusted. Next up, and it's a kind of a smaller thing in Ground War, but I don't think that the white phosphorus should last the whole match because it's very disruptive. You can barely see anything. It's already hard to see people in places where it's dark, but with the white phosphorus, it was even harder to see anything. So I think it shouldn't last the whole match, but only a set amount of time. When I say that, I also have to mention that the very last game I played of the beta, someone called in the white phosphorus, and it didn't last the whole match. I can't be sure if it's only a glitch or if they actually adjusted it because I haven't seen anything on it. That was basically the points I had on Ground War. So I want to say that I think it's a very fun mode, even though I was forced to play in a different way, but it was very exciting because I could choose if I wanted to have more intense gunfights and going into the rooms where the enemies were spawning and try to fight them off, or if I wanted to hang back and maybe snipe or stuff like that. I find that to be interesting. But I would love to see if they could put in headquarters or something like that. That would be even more chaotic, and I think that would be a lot of fun to play in Ground War. So my final thought is that I had really fun playing Ground War and Gunfight. I didn't play any Gunfight this weekend, but I did the Alpha weekend and I had so much fun. But I'm a bit worried because at this moment I'm not enjoying multiplayer at all. I'm worried that I will get bored of the game quickly because then I would only have those two modes. And another thing that I wanted to mention is that how is it gonna be both with player base as well as resources on their end? One thing that kind of worries me though is that they already have campaign, spec ups, 6v6 multiplayer, realism, hardcore, 10v10, 20v20, 32 versus 32, and they're also thinking about doing 50v50. I don't know if they're going to replace the 32 versus 32, but how is it going to be with their resources in-house? And what if I enjoy something with the lesser player base? How is it gonna affect my matchmaking and anything? And if it's fewer people who play it, they're also gonna probably put less resources into it, which also means that it would get boring more easily. And then finally, it's only a month into launch. I really hope they can fix the two really big things, which is the spawns and the inconsistency in connection before that. Because I really do enjoy the gunplay, the way your character move, as well as how you use the weapon and everything. I really enjoy it. And the gunsmith, all the possibilities you have with the different weapons and the possibilities to make the same weapon so differently using that. I think it's very promising because I see there is a lot of good things. It's just a few major things that kind of messes it up for me. So that was it for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoy, and make sure you comment down below what your thoughts are about the beta and what you think is gonna happen to the full launch. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye, my lovely, lovely birdies.